It is, Your Honor. Just in terms of housekeeping, Mr. Redman informs me that he'd like to address the court before we proceed. I guess he has a motion he'd like to make.
Well, thank you. Generally, I challenge jurisdiction, and I've got a right to do that. Court cases prove that jurisdiction has to be proved before it can be asserted. The jurisdiction has to be proved by prosecution, not by the judge. And that hasn't been done yet. To put challenges to jurisdiction in, and as far as I know, that's the only evidence before the court that they can consider, and it has to be resolved in my favor since he didn't answer that.
I'm not following all this. I agree with you that I have to have jurisdiction in order to trial.
Right, and he has to prove it. That's a challenge.
Okay, and so why can't he just do that?
I'm waiting for that.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to say on a preliminary basis?
On a preliminary basis, no, because I can't move forward until jurisdiction has been ruled on.
Okay.
I've got a lot to say afterwards if you go forward.
Okay. Mr. Mosley, what would you like to say about jurisdiction?
In terms of jurisdiction, well, clearly the court has jurisdiction over the subject matter. This matter is, as the testimony will reveal, happened in a town in which this court has jurisdiction. The defendant, the agency name of Mr. Redman, you'll hear from the state that he was in fact operating within the court's jurisdiction. He was personally in the state of New Hampshire, enjoying the rights and privileges of the state of New Hampshire, and therefore subject to the laws of the state of New Hampshire.
Okay. All right. Anything you want to say in reply to that, Mr. Redman?
I didn't hear a single bit of proof. All I heard was allegations without proof. Substantially, once it's been challenged, that's to be proved, not asserted.
Okay. All right. I'm going to make a finding now that I do have jurisdiction of this matter. So, are we then ready to go ahead with the trial?
We are.
Well, first I must object, and we are proceeding only upon my objection and against, under coercion.
Okay. That's certainly noted. This proceeding is entirely recorded, as you are probably aware. Copies of the recording can be obtained through the text. So I'll note your objection for objection.
Thank you. The state calls Chief Steve Campbell to stand. Chief, would you please raise your right hand? You swear that testimony about you to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Would please take your seat. And if you would state your name, please, and spell your last name for the record.
Steve Campbell, C-A-M-P-B-E-L-L.
And how are you employed?
I am the Chief of Police of Bennington, New Hampshire.
And how long have you been so employed?
I've been working in Bennington since February 1995. I've been Chief since June of 1996.
And are you trained in traffic enforcement?
Yes, I am.
And where did you receive that training?
I attended the New Hampshire Full-Time Police Academy.
Okay. And what year was your graduation?
1994.
Oh. And were you on duty on June 4, 2011?
Yes, I was.
And do you recall where you were that day at approximately 11:49 p.m.?
I was just pulling out of, I was on patrol in a marked cruiser. And I was just pulling out of Rhymes, which is located on 202, and I was heading southbound on 202.
Okay.
When I observed the vehicle pass me.
Okay. And did you make any particular observations of that vehicle?
At that point, the headlights got my attention because one of them appeared to be defective, and the vehicle passed me heading northbound.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed a defective tail light also.
When you said one of the headlights appeared to be defective, what do you mean by that?
Like the headlight was out or was not operating properly.
I'm a little confused. You said that the vehicle passed you and you noticed the headlight, one of the headlights was defective.
Yes, sir.
I noticed that as it was passing you.
Yes, sir.
And then you said something about, I thought you said something about a tail light or northbound.
Well, the vehicle was going northbound. I was headed southbound, the vehicle was going northbound.
Okay, so when you say past you don't mean going past you in the sense of overtaking you.
Oh, no, sir.
Going the
Opposite direction. I was heading back towards Bennington, and the vehicle was heading towards Anthem, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And as it passed in going toward Game, I saw the tail lights out also.
And State Route 202, who maintains that road?
State of New Hampshire.
Okay. Your Honor, asked court of judicial notice that State Route 202 is a public way. And so based on those observations that you made up to that point, what did you do next?
I turned around and I activated my lights, those two lights, and I stopped the vehicle, 1202, right in the same area,
Okay.
close to the town line of Redman.
And what did you observe about the vehicle at that point?
At that point, I just observed the type of vehicle it was. I noticed there were a couple bicycles hooked onto the back of the vehicle. When we make a vehicle stop, we call in the license plate number and town where we're located. And I remember I wasn't able to see the license plate number because it was obscured by these couple bicycles.
Okay. And so what did you next then?
I called in to stop, gave a description of the vehicle, and then I got out of the vehicle and approached the driver.
What kind of vehicle was it?
It was Eagle Summit.
Okay. And you called that in and you approached, you said you approached the operator?
Yes, sir. I approached the operator, identified who I was, and explained the reason for the stop.
Okay. And were you able to identify that operator?
The best I could at the time, as far as his name at that moment, I wasn't able to get his name.
Okay.
But as far as the description, I could identify him.
Okay. And so the person that you initially made contact that evening, at that time, you see that person here today?
Just is the defendant. They identified as Mr. John Redman, sitting at the defense table.
I'd ask that the record reflect that the chief identified Mr. Redman. And what questions did you ask him at that point?
I was trying to ask some questions. I requested license and registration like you always do when you get a vehicle stop.
Yeah.
And so he told me he didn't have a license, and I asked a couple questions. Is that assuming that maybe he forgot him at home or something like that, or he misplaced him or lost him or some of that nature. So I'm trying to find out where his license was at.
Right.
And he basically replied something to the effect of, "No, I don't have a license." And I'm like, trying to figure out, well, where was it? And then after a while, he said, "Are you suspended?" And he's like, "No, I don't have a license. I just don't have a license." And so at that time,
any comment about him needing a license?
he said he didn't need a license. I mean, basically, and so at that point, I changed from the license to trying to go to the subject of the registration.
Okay. And how did that proceed? If you could tell us please.
Well, asking about the registration on the vehicle, I asked him if the vehicle was registered to him. And he basically said, no, it wasn't. I said there was a license plate on the vehicle or something to that effect. And he says, well, it's not registered or whatever. He said he made the license plate. And there was a license plate on there after I got because of the bicycle. At this point, I went back and looked at the license plate and made an observation that it didn't have a sticker on it, didn't have a state on it, didn't have anything on it except numbers. I still tried to run it through dispatch. It came back, no such license plate.
And did you ask him about the plate?
I asked him about the license plate. I asked him if it was registered to him. He said no, it wasn't registered. And then I asked something to the effect, I don't know exactly how, but he said it was his vehicle. I asked him about the license plate. He said he made the license plate. But he did say he was the owner of this vehicle.
Okay. And Chief, can you identify this object, please?
That is the license plate that I removed from the vehicle.
And whose vehicle?
Mr. Redman's vehicle.
Okay. And where was that plate when you removed it?
It was on the rear of the vehicle. And at the time, like I testified, I made testimony and noticed that there were no stickers, there was no state. And then it had a webpage address on the bottom and closer observation, looked like it had been painted. You look real close, you can tell it's been painted and all that. So.
And I was going to ask you, in your training and experience, is that plate consistent with the kind of plates you see on vehicles?
Not this one, no.
You know, submit that as States 1.
I'm going to object to that.
What is the objection?
That's private property. It was removed from my vehicle without a warrant. It's not in the state's hands by lawful process. It was stolen from my vehicle without lawful process. So it still is in the chain of unlawful hands.
And just to be clear, so now, did you inquire as to, again, to the ownership specifically of who owned that particular Eagle Summit?
Yes, he told me he owned the vehicle.
Uh-huh.
It was his vehicle.
And was there any comment as to, do you have any questions to him about why he didn't feel he needed to have a license or a registration or any of these other things?
Well, at one point, I can't remember exactly when, at that point, during that conversation in that area, he stated he didn't have to have those things.
Let me tell you why.
He told me one time he's a prophet of God,
Okay.
and then he said he really didn't want to answer any more questions about the license plates registration.
Okay. And what happened next in terms of how you're dealing with Mr. Redman at that point?
Well, because everything seemed to be so confusing about his identification, who he was,
Mm-hmm.
and the license plates and all that. I asked him if he asked the vehicle, which he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept trying to explain I needed to know his name and all this, and he finally told me his name was, he actually gave me a business card saying he was a prophet of God and had John Redman on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him if that was his real name. And he said, that's what I'm telling you, or that's what I'm giving you, that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And but again, I couldn't verify anything at that point.
And was there any, did you ask for any other confirming data, such as date of birth?
I asked for address, I asked for date of birth, I asked for his name, if he verified that was his name, all those type of things.
And what was his response to those questions?
He just didn't want to answer them. I can't remember exactly again, but he wasn't being argumentative.
Mm-hmm.
He was being cooperative, except he wouldn't give me information.
And what happened next?
After you had him exit the vehicle, again, I kept going over the same stuff all the time, trying to identify who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And I explained to him that I needed to find out, be able to confirm who he was. If not, I'm going to place him under arrest.
Mm-hmm.
So I could figure out what was going on. And he said, no problems. He's been arrested many times, except the first time in New Hampshire. And so I placed him in custody after he was cooperating.
And did he make any comments about actually being the driver of that vehicle at that time?
At one point, I told him he had to have a license and the registration. And vehicle had to be properly registered. He had to have a driver's license in order to drive a vehicle in the state of New Hampshire. And he said he wasn't driving the vehicle.
Okay.
But I also made note there was no other person in the vehicle except for him.
And when you first made contact with the operator of that Eagle Summit, who was sitting at the driver's seat?
He was at the driver's seat, and there was no one else in the vehicle.
Oh. And what happened now?
I placed him in custody. I transported him back to the station. I was still trying to get some information from him, and again, he was being uncooperative. Finally, after charging with the charges we have here today,
Mm-hmm.
I transported him to Valley Street, Hillsborough County House of Corrections, pending court hearing.
Thank you.
Mr. Redman, I usually explain these things at the beginning, but the procedure that we follow is that the state will present whatever witnesses it has. After each witness has testified, you may ask the witness questions yourself. And then after the state has presented all of its witnesses, you may testify yourself if you would like to, but you're under no obligation to do that.
Well, I will try to avoid testifying as I speak, but I will tell you what I probably told you the last time. I will take no oaths, nor will I affirm, but I told you what I told you. I remember what I said?
You do.
Okay, quite. All right, so I will try to avoid irritating you in that way. If I can get away with it, fine, that's right.
You didn't irritate me at all the last time.
All right.
I'm sure that neither of us will irritate the other today.
Good.
Is that a good plan?
That's wonderful.
Good. All right.
All right, Steve, let me preface my questions with a warning. Article 38 of the New Hampshire Constitution acknowledges that I have a right to require that lawgivers and magistrates have exact and constant observance of the law. In furtherance of that is the lawful requirement from Henry McGowan, 1917, 177C 93, that ignorance of the law does not excuse misconduct of anyone, least of all in a sworn officer of the law. Okay. So question one, did you or did you not swear an oath to ask you? Whose room is this, please? All right, did you or did you not swear, Brother Wesley, that I did commit the offense of driving after suspension or revocation, a violation of RSA 263-64?
Yes, I did.
All right, is that true?
At the time, I thought it could be true. As far as you just talking about the one charge, right?
Yes.
The driving after suspension. Yes, I
All
thought.
right, so it's a falsehood then.
Yes, on that charge.
Okay, so you lied under oath, yes or no?
No.
You did not lie under oath?
No.
You took an oath and it's not true.
No, I thought that would be one of the charges possibly we had, is driving after suspension.
But it's not true.
Excuse me, I just want to
I
make.
don't want to badger you, no. But I want a straight answer
I
though.
want to get up to speed here. You're talking about are you talking about the complaint that was there was no crime?
Well, you're right, yeah, that's
Definitely.
an objection, that there is no complaint before the court, that's irrelevant, and so I think
It's not irrelevant because I'm impeaching the witness.
Ask your question.
I'm impeaching the witness, which I'm entitled to do. All right, so are you sure, are you on board with which ticket I'm talking
Yes,
about?
yes.
And you're on board.
Yes,
And you're on board, okay. So, if it wasn't true, then it's not, then it's a falsehood, right? And it was under oath, is that correct, sir?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Is there any other statement concerning Ms. Kennis in which you lied?
No.
If not, great. He did not ask, but I will. Did you not proceed with the search or order the search of my 1995 Eagle Summit?
What?
again, you're not gonna object to relevancy, there's no evidence before, there's no charge resulting from the inventory of the vehicle, there's nothing before the court regarding the inventory, it has nothing to do with the case.
I will make that clear.
I'm going to let him.
Okay.
All right. So, did you order an inventory or a search of my vehicle?
I ordered, I did conduct a search of your, inventory search of your vehicle per Pennington Police Department policy. Anytime we impound a vehicle, we have to do an inventory search, because we're accountable, responsible for all the stuff that's in the vehicle.
Did you, in fact, tell me you were going to leave a copy of that inventory in the vehicle?
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. All right, well, let's testify, I'm sorry. Was there an inventory made, a physical inventory listing of the contents?
There was inventory of some of the items in the vehicle, and as I put in my report, some of it was done through photos because of, not to be rude, because of the condition and the stuff that was in the vehicle.
You bet.
I took a photo of it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I took a
It's a
photo
terrible,
of it.
it's a terrible jumble. That's my truck. I throw everything back
I'm
there.
just saying, I took a photo of it as part of the inventory search, and items that what we found in the vehicle, we did an inventory of it.
All right, but you did say you were going to leave me a copy of it, and I did not find such. Is that part of the record?
It's part of the face value, yes it is.
May I give you a copy of that? Please.
I want to interrupt the trial now. I don't have a copy of it, and it's not going to be introduced as part of the case, so let's.
Well, I can make use of it because, first of all,
Well, this isn't the time.
at this point, I've withheld invoking the jurisdiction of the court until you took jurisdiction. But once you've assumed jurisdiction, I've got a whole bunch more motions to actually file, including discovery.
Well, we're having a trial now, and discovery, we're having a trial now. Discovery gets done before trial starts, not afterwards.
Discovery gets once jurisdiction is assumed, and I had a microsecond in there. And I've not been given an opportunity to file these motions. Would you like to see the motions as they are? They're relevant.
Did you not raise the issue of jurisdiction at your arraignment? I thought you did.
And jurisdiction, yes, but jurisdiction has not been proved until.
Did I not make a ruling of
No, you did not.
making jurisdiction?
You did not, sir.
Okay, well,
Had you done so, I would have filed these motions.
yeah. Bottom line here is that I'm not going to have a discovery discussion here now. We're having a trial, and I'm sure that Mr. Bosley would be happy to give you copies or give you a copy of the inventory such as it is.
Well,
And some of
there's
the
far more than that involved. My first motion for immediate disclosure of favorable evidence involves enumerating the enabling legislation, the enabling clause behind every one of these charges,
Let me just ask you, do you have any more questions of Chief Campbell?
lots of them.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and ask them?
All right. Anyhow, at this point, I'll take formal objection to proceeding without giving me the opportunity to file motions for discovery.
That objection is noted, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. All right. With regard to the guarantee contained in Article 19 of the New Hampshire Constitution, what items were removed from my 1995 Eagle Summit by you or LEOs under your direction? LEOs meaning law enforcement officers.
Yeah, let me just say, Mr. Bosley objected to getting into the issue of the inventory, and the reason that he did so was because you're not charged with anything. Let me finish. Okay? I don't know whether you've got personal pet peeves. I've got one of them, and it is being interrupted. I'm not going to interrupt you, but I really would appreciate it if you didn't interrupt me. And opening your mouth and inhaling makes me think you're going to interrupt. It makes me nervous, but you didn't. You're absolutely right, you did not. But my point is that Ms. Bosley objected to the inventory issue because you're not charged with anything. They didn't find any marijuana, they didn't find a sawed-off shotgun, no evidence of contraband. You obviously live, well, except for the general jumble up there, you live a clean and upstanding. No, you don't.
It's terribly messy.
Okay. But bottom line is that you really can't get distracted by something that's not part of the case against you. You've got 4 charges left. And
I'm impeaching. I'm impeaching the witness.
That's really too far afield. I'm not going to let you discuss.
There's one more item over in front of the prosecutor.
One more item there?
One more item that was taken from my car without my permission.
Tell me what you think it is.
It's a business card. There's a business card I gave to Steve Campbell, and there's a business card I did not give to Steve Campbell. It came into Steve Campbell's possession by an illegal search and seizure of an item in my car.
Then you may have some remedy for theft, but that's not something that we're dealing with today. We're dealing with these motor vehicles.
It involves impeaching the witness, which is I'm entitled to do.
As a general rule, you are, but I'm not going to allow you to keep on discussing a business card that you may have taken after the vehicle was seized. So do you have any other questions?
Lots. Is it your practice to remove items from vehicles without a warrant authorizing you to do so?
No, it's not.
Is removal of items from a vehicle covered by Article 19 of the New Hampshire Constitution?
I can't answer. I don't know exactly what Article 19 covers in depth, so I can't really say.
Well, it does involve requiring a warrant. Okay. Why did you arrest me initially?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Why was it you arrested me initially?
Initially because of disobeying an officer and the charges we got today, misuse of plate, and
Before that?
I didn't arrest you before that.
Yes, you did. You pulled me over. That's arresting. You seized my person and
Objective argument.
Initially it was because of defective equipment in your vehicle.
all right. Was this a Terry stop?
Always a motor vehicle violation stop. All rights are required to be operational, and yours were not. That's why I stopped you.
So it's not a Terry stop. Terry stop requires a suspicion of a criminal activity.
But the criminal with motor vehicle violation to start off with.
But Terry requires a stop to be based on a suspicion of criminal activity. Is that not true? Like, it's Terry v. Ohio, 392 U.S. 1.
I did not have any suspicion of any type of criminal activity at that point.
So it's not a lawful Terry stop then, right? It was not a lawful Terry stop, was it?
That's, whether a stop is lawful or not is something that I have to decide. And you can certainly make an argument that the stop is illegal.
Okay.
At the close of the evidence.
So in effect, though, a burned out taillight, and turned out it wasn't burned out, it was just merely dislodged from its position, is a civil violation?
Civil violation?
Yeah.
I'd call it a motor vehicle violation.
All right, well, while every crime violates the law, not every violation of the law constitutes a crime. Breaches of contract and other civil law may rank as offenses or infractions. So this would be an infraction?
Motor vehicle offense, infraction.
Well, some motor vehicle offenses, like, while driving, that can be that can be a crime. Or causing an accident can be a motor vehicle violation and a crime. Is that right?
Some of them could rise to being a crime.
Exactly. But this did not, did it?
At that point, no, it did not.
All right. Do you have or now ever have any evidence of a contractual relationship between myself and the state of New Hampshire?
If I understand your question, I'm going to say no, because until that evening, I didn't know anything about you.
All right.
Even though
Do you
were-
recall that I stated I wasn't driving at the time? Is
Yes,
that
I
correct?
recall you saying that, yes.
Do you recall me saying that I was traveling
Yes.
instead of driving?
Yes.
Thank you. And you said I was alone in the car, so you had no, you said I was alone in the car, so you had no evidence that I was hauling passengers for hire. Is that correct?
At that point, you was in the vehicle by yourself.
All right, and despite all that garbage strewn about the back seat, my back area of my car, you have no evidence that I was hauling freight for hire?
No, I don't.
All right, thank you.
How many? I'm just going to object this line of question. I think he's
That's
trying
finished.
backdoor
That's
the
finished.
jurisdiction issue. I think he's going to commerce, interstate commerce.
That's finished. It's finished.
It's a back.
That was the last question in that line. How many sets of taillights or stoplights did you observe on Eagle Simon when you arrested without probable cause of suspecting it was involved in the commission of crime as required by the Terry decision? Long sentence short. How many working sets of taillights did you observe?
I didn't count the lights per se, but I know that the driver's side tail lights were not working. I didn't count the light bulbs and all that. There's all the lights on the driver's side.
Well, separate sets of lights. How many are you normally on the back of a car? Tipper Gore. Think Tipper Gore.
I'm going to object to the question. How many sets of lights on a typical car? There are some Audis now that have 20 lights in each tail light. I mean, it's a question.
I'm not talking about individual light bulbs. I'm talking about sets.
Again,
He specified that there was one that wasn't working.
All right. If I've been driving a 1952 Ford, how many lights would you have expected to see? Sets of lights.
I have no idea. Both sides of the vehicle, the lights have to be working. Left and right corners of the vehicle. I don't count the individual lights or light bulbs.
Is that how the statute reads? Or is it number of working lights? Do you know how the statute reads?
Not exactly. It says all equipment is supposed to be operational. Lights are supposed to be operational. I don't have that.
So the
words.
difference-
I do not have exact words of how
Right.
it's written.
Modern cars have 3. And thanks to Tipper Gore, one of those is the one in the middle. Does that sound familiar? You're used to seeing the one in the middle, right?
You mean like above the rear window?
Oftentimes, yes.
I've seen them before, yes.
Can we?
Do they
Let's move on to some of the.
do they work in 2 fashions? Do they have a running light function and a stoplight function?
Yes, you have when you're driving a vehicle without the brakes, they're on, and you get the brakes, they come on, lights come on brighter, brake lights come on.
Thank you. That's the point I'm trying to get to. So the 1995 Eagle Summit had 2 sets of working tail light stoplights. All right, thank you.
What was your, what did you just say?
The Eagle Summit that he stopped had 2 working sets of stoplight slant taillights,
Is that what you agreed to?
counting the middle one.
I'll just agree, that's what he said was it, I wouldn't agree, I don't know how many they have.
Are you agreeing that there were 2 working sets?
Oh, no, sir, I'm not saying there was 2 working sets. I'm just,
I just
he
wanted
says
to
that,
understand.
no, I'm just trying to acknowledge that his phrase, he was making a mistake and wasn't twice on this stuff, okay, I mean, you say so. Only thing I'm testifying to, there was 2 sets of lights, one on the left corner, one on the right corner, and the lights on the driver's side were not working.
Stoplight taillight.
Lights.
Right, well, there's another separate light too, which is the turn signal and the backup. But anyhow, are you required to obey the New Hampshire law yourself, including all the provisions of the Constitution?
Yes.
Is that part of your oath you take?
That I obey the law.
When you take an oath as a sworn LEO, you're swearing to uphold the Constitution of the state of Connecticut. I meant New Hampshire.
Yes.
I haven't seen the text of the oath you take, so that's why I'm asking. What is your understanding of the legal requirement for citizens arrested by LEOs to supply the name, address, and birth date? What's the purpose behind it that you gave me?
That's another question of whether he thinks whatever he thinks the law is on that, that's something that I have to decide.
All right,
And you can argue that.
Well, I'm not getting to that point. I'm going to think, how did you tell me it was the reason you needed to know those things? You recall? When you were in your office, and you opened the statute book, and you showed me where it said the requirement was. Do you remember what you said was the reason you needed to know this?
I remember exactly what I told you, but the reason we asked, and you have to identify who you are and all that, is in case there's something else is going on we don't know about, or if I have to charge you with something like you did that night,
That's enough.
appropriate information to charge you.
All right. So, you're saying it's for the purpose of determining whether this person constitutes a danger either to yourself or to the general public.
All of it, yes.
Yes. Thank
They
you.
also charge you with the charges pending, and you know who you are when your date of birth is.
Right. Is there any relation between? Why did I read that? Is there any relation of this determination to the offense for which the person was? Let's forget that. Doesn't even make any sense to me. I'll say in other words. In other words, the person just may be thought suspect of being implicated in other violations other than what she was arrested for, and that's what you just said yes to.
It's a part of it.
Yeah. Therefore, a minor civil violation may result in a major criminal, and the state can't afford to let that person go, right? Is that true? You can't. If you were just to take someone's word, okay, you were jaywalking. Here's a ticket, but it may be an axe murderer who's wanted by the FBI.
The main thing I was trying to do is identify who you were, so I can deal with the issues at hand at that point. The license plate, the no driver's license, those type of things. That's what I was dealing with at hand. There could be other things, yes.
If you go backwards to when you first pulled me over, and by the way, you were parked. You weren't driving south. You were parked when you whipped around. That's a minor.
Are you going to be testifying?
I said I'll try to avoid testifying. I'm trying. Yeah, I'll try harder. Thank you. But anyhow, so what you really are is on a fishing expedition for bigger charges. Is that correct?
No.
All right, you don't want to agree to that, but I will assert that. Are you required to respect the prohibition against self-incrimination?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Are you required to respect the prohibition against requiring self-incrimination inculcated in the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution and Article 15 of the New Hampshire Constitution?
I don't understand that question.
Your Honor, I guess I'm going to object. At the time of
Let
the
me
stop,
restate.
he was not in custody. He was
Let me
allowed
restate.
to conduct a narrowly tailored investigation into the
That's
basis
another,
of the
that's another legal conclusion about it.
No, let me restate that. I'll try. You understand that someone's not required to testify against themselves. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's covered by the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. You've heard this. I plead Fifth. And Article 15 of the New Hampshire Constitution covers the same ground. All right, that's testifying against them. Well, you know that, right?
What's the question? I missed the question.
I'm just saying that do you understand that someone is not required to give evidence against themselves which may tend to incriminate them?
Again, I guess I'm exactly talking about legal foundations for
I'll take the
proceeding.
additional notice that the Fifth Amendment applies to
Thank you.
this situation.
That's fine. I was going to be asking you that. Can a person, oh yeah, who gets to decide whether that information coming out of a person's mouth or being asked could tend to incriminate? Is it you or is it the person being asked? What's your understanding of that?
I'm lost.
Mr. Redman, the right of police officers to request the new date of birth and get a copy of the license, the deputy license, and registration of vehicles is something that has been the subject of many Supreme Court cases, U.S. and New Hampshire, and it's already decided that police officers can do that.
They can ask.
They can ask, and you can refuse and pay the consequences that you did.
Yes, they did.
But that's not something that is, I'm not going to change that law here in Henniker today. So if you...
Well, I'm establishing...
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I'm establishing a record for future. No matter what happens here today, I may need a record.
Okay, well, we'll have them ready for it. I don't want to have any more questioning though about his right to ask you for your license, registration, date of birth, and name. And I understand that you object to that, and you're certainly welcome to, but you need to take that up. I'm not going to rule in your favor on that. So you need to take that up with the New Hampshire Supreme Court if you wish to, if you're unsuccessful today.
Right. Well,
There's not really any point in continuing to ask him questions about the state of the law, because that's my ruling on the law, and we just need to move on.
okay. Well, part of the reason do you remember the answer I gave you when you asked me for my date of birth?
No, I don't.
That's what I said, yes. He just answered. I said, no, I don't know the answer to the question, what's my date of birth?
Are you testifying? You say that?
He just said it, so I'm just repeating what he just said.
Do you have any more questions?
Yes. Can a person, well, I mean, is hearsay testimony accepted? Sometimes, but in this case?
Really, this is not a time when I'm going to give you legal advice about.
I know the answer. I'm not asking for legal advice.
Okay, then you don't need to ask me. Do you have any questions of Chief Campbell?
I would like to ask for judicial notice that exceptions to hearsay do not include perjury. There's no exceptions for perjury in acceptance of hearsay.
Any more questions of Chief Campbell?
Yes, there are lots more. But, I've got to follow my script. Thank you. We said that at the same time.
Great minds.
Do you recall me telling you that I cannot give first-hand testimony to when I was born?
I don't exactly remember the conversation, how it went. I remember I asked for the date of birth. You wouldn't tell me, you couldn't tell me or something, and so I don't remember exactly how the conversation went.
Do you think it's possible I said I couldn't tell you?
Possible.
Right. That's all be satisfied with that. Do you remember what I answered to when you said, where do I live? It made it into the newspaper interview, so it's
I remember after talking to you a little while about it, like where you live, you didn't have an address. I asked like where you going, where you coming from, or something like that. Like I always try to get information. You told me it was on your way to Henniker.
that too.
Something like that.
But what made it into the newspaper article, which could have only come from you,
I'm going to object. I can testify, so just questions if we could, please.
do you recall me saying that I live in my body?
There was something like that, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember you saying that at the arraignment. I don't remember once that night. I'll clarify that.
it made it into the newspaper article, so I assume that that was our last contact.
Mr. Redman, really, if you want to testify, you can do that.
All right.
Okay.
I would like to ask for judicial notice that the reason Martha Stewart spent all those months in Danbury prison was that she was convicted of lying to the government.
Denied.
Okay. I'd like to ask for judicial notice that it would tend to incriminate someone who testified to facts that they couldn't be sure of. That would be perjury.
That's denied.
All right. With regard to our portion of Article 15 of the New Hampshire Constitution, did you or did you not cause my person to be imprisoned without due process afforded by that article?
That's a legal conclusion. You can ask me questions about the facts. And I'll decide whether or not we violate.
Did you take no notes at all during our time together? I mean, you seem to be testifying strictly from memory.
I made a report. Some of it, remember you asked me some of, like,
Well,
I do have a report. I have a police report. I'll put it that way.
all right. But you're testifying without benefit of it right now.
I'm not looking at it, but I have a copy with me.
Okay. Could I be provided a copy of that, or can I look at your copy?
Then I would have one.
You can see it, but we're not in the middle of the trial. We're having a trial.
Well, I'd like to know what he knows from memory, and he doesn't seem to be going to the police report. And he's very shaky on some of the things that I thought he would have written down.
You have a right to ask him questions, and that's that. He doesn't have a right automatically to look at his own report.
That's different for New Hampshire, I assure you.
Okay.
Asking the court, do you have the right sua sponte to place somebody under arrest for violations of New Hampshire law?
I'm not going to give you legal advice. I'm not going to deal with academic questions right now. If you have questions about the facts of this arrest,
All right.
ask them to.
Can I review my questions one more time, please? I think that's the last of my questions for you, Steve.
Do you have any feedback?
Just one. Do you know for certain that Mr. Redman isn't suspended tonight?
Not for certain, I mean, I tried to do some research after all this happened, and I couldn't find anything, so I'm not for certain.
That's all.
All right, may I step down? Thank you very much.
See you.
Mr. Redman, the state has rested. If you want anyone, including yourself, to testify, this would be the opportunity to do it.
Well, I have, I can direct your attention to some of the papers I filed in front of you.
Well, I have those papers.
All right. I direct your attention then to the right to travel on public highways section on page 2 of the constitutional basis for lack of standing of plaintiffs.
Okay, that's one of the documents that you submitted?
Yes.
Did you submit those today?
Submitted this one, no, submitted this one, 9 days ago.
9 days ago, that's right. So they weren't timely filed, so they're not properly before the court, I would say, in terms of timing. Certainly if he wants to make his oral arguments at this point, that's fine.
Why are they not properly before the court?
There is a rule that motions must be filed with a chance to file with the other side.
A little bit louder, please.
I'm going to consider your motions, Mr. Redman, so it's really, I mean, he's objected to it, but I'm going to consider your motions.
Well, those aren't motions, they're simply affidavits.
Okay.
I do have motions that I'd like to file. Discovery motions,
Well, I would object to the affidavits. I mean, that affidavit is not admissible. If he wants to testify to something that he can testify to without introducing hearsay, then that's fine.
Now, is there anybody else that you might want to have testify on your behalf?
There was nobody else there.
Do you wish to testify on your own behalf?
Well, I wish to address the court on legal issues.
Well, you can do that, but my question is whether or not you wish to testify yourself.
Would you allow me to?
Of course I would allow you to.
Without oath and without affirmation.
I'll let you tell me that you're going to tell the truth, and that's good enough.
I told you that before, didn't I? I always tell the truth.
Well, that's good enough for me.
Thank you. Well, then I'll testify. Do we over there? No, you stay here.
Just read it over the witness stand.
That'd be glad. Be pleased to offer you copies of one of the things I'm going to talk about. Yeah, Constitution.
Thank you. Thank you. Are you going to proceed in this order? Okay.
Please, my mess here. I'd be pleased to offer the court copies of the same.
So this is in addition to what I already have?
Yes, sir. Because I'm. I hate for my papers to be ugly like that, and use my floor for arranging that stuff on mine.
Lisa, I'm not going to read these right now, but if you could stand for me. first name basis.
Oh. He's younger than me, though. So do you.
Thank you, that's a good thing, sir. It won't work.
It's not meant to work. Stating facts.
How would I know that?
Well, I don't know how you know that. Were you alive during World War II?
Yes.
Oh, then we may be close. Closer than I thought. But I know I have 10 years on this gentleman here. Okay, first I'd like to testify that Steve or this gentleman or the other gentleman removed from my vehicle a item which is in front of Michael, which is a business card that says Gunks Mountain Road House Concert Series. That was removed in an illegal search. Maybe of infinitesimally small value. It was still done without authorization of the New Hampshire Constitution, which, as I mentioned in Section 38 of the Constitution, officers of the government are required to obey the Constitution assiduously. Now, I would like to know. No, I don't. That's not testimony. That's not testimony. Sorry. One of the things I observed while I was in the back of Steve's car was that there was chatter on the radio involving the south end of Ware Road in Henniker, which was the approximate location of where I received mail. I received mail in the mailbox that's 50 yards from the rail line. So it would seem to me that without my giving an address, which is something I can't possibly do, when they ask where do I live, if they'd ask a different question, I could have given a different answer. But where do you live? I mean, literally, I live in my body, and I don't live anywhere else. So to give an honest answer, which is something I'm living my life to do so, I can only say I live in my body. He said, where do you receive mail? And I said, 2307 Ware Road. When was I born? I answered, I don't know, because I can't give first-hand knowledge of when I was born. So the questions are leading toward a dishonest answer, which I cannot give. I was there, I was present at my birth, but my age of comprehension came much later. So I have second-hand knowledge of when I was born, but the questions asked don't lead to second-hand knowledge. I am fully aware why Martha Stewart went to jail. And that's because it was based on that she lied to the government. I don't mind going to jail, but not for the wrong reasons. And to give dishonest answers to government questions is incriminating. And I won't do it. The law as required, as written, is requiring dishonest answers. And therefore, it's unconstitutional. And it intends to incriminate those who attempt to answer them. It puts you in an untenable position. As soon as you lie to the government, they've got you on anything they want. And that's why I answered the way I answered. When I was asked about driving, and I answered to you, this gentleman here, I said I wasn't driving, because I was relying on particular first-hand knowledge of the right of a citizen to use highways, including the streets of the city or town, for travel to transport his goods is an inherent right which cannot be taken from him. Driving is an issue that's covered, that you'll see in the citations they give you. Is a commercial activity and may be regulated by the state because you're using the highways for commercial gain. Private individual doesn't use the highways for commercial gain, and therefore they travel, they don't drive. That was the nature of why I answered the way I answered. And it is the nature of why I say I am not required in all these citations that I've given you, and believe me, I've pared this down from hundreds down to what, 30. Support the position that regulation by licensure or by registration is required of those who use it for commercial activity. And that's all. Because everybody else is given a buy on those. So as to all these charges, they don't apply to me. There's a charge of a false plate. I don't understand the language being used on me on that. It's not a false plate at all. It's a plate I made. It's a name plate, something I put in that position. But it doesn't become a license plate just because it looks like one. One particular thing that I rely on heavily to justify my truthful position that I have the right to use the road is this decision here, Smethurst versus Independent Congregational Church, 2LA RA 695, where it says a traveler lawfully uses a public highway has the same rights to enjoy such use undisturbed as if he were the owner in fee simple. The only requirement is that you don't interfere with anybody else's right to do this thing. But private use is protected as a right. And anything that's written that may imply otherwise may be disregarded completely because it is a non-constitutional law.
These arguments are included in your paperwork?
They are included in their paperwork, but I'm giving you my testimony as to why I behave the way I do, the way I perform the functions I do on the public roads, because they're the only roads I've got in front of me.
Okay.
As a Quaker minister, I travel.
Okay, I understand your argument about that. So, is there anything that you want to tell me about the facts of that evening?
The facts concerning why I answered the way I did and why I was doing what I was doing. Those are simply the facts.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
No, sir. Nothing.
All right. Do you have any questions, Mr. Paulson? Lawyers can't resist asking questions. That's like
I want to ask him if he does Cajun type of dancing. Doesn't seem like most of it.
I get them all the time. But, no, I have no questions. I'm cheap.
All right, you may step down. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to, rather than read through what I was just doing, 70 or 80 pages of documentation here, I'm going to consider the evidence closed, and I will take the issue of finding under advisement. And we'll reschedule it for a couple of weeks out, and that will either
It makes sense.
Okay, as long as that's not gonna be July 20th or anything, is it? I'm very busy that day. You said 2 weeks, but I'm not sure.
I was planning on July 20th, but in deference to your schedule, I'll make it July 14th.
Thank you.
At 9:30?
That's great.
Past field day, is that okay with you, Mike?
Yeah, July 14th.
How'd you know that? That's pretty cool.
Oh, 11606.
11666.
I'll do the defendant and notice of hearing in hand.
Yes. All right, I think that concludes today's chapter. Nice to see you, other than in custody.
You know how I hated that?
I can imagine it's dreadful.